This is Caesar de Bello Gallico, Liber Quartus, chapter 22. So, having sent out Gaius Volusenus to reconnoiter Britain, Gaius Volusenus has come back on the fifth day and said, I really didn't see much because he did not dare to disembark from his ship. He didn't trust his person amongst the barbarians. How scary. So now, having learned very little, Caesar decides that he's just going to sort of gung-ho run right into it. Let's just do it. And this passage, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I kind of sense Caesar's frustration and his impatience. He really wants to get going. He wants to be the first Roman to set foot in this new scary land. So we start off with a dum, and we know if we have a dum, we're either going to have an indicative, and it's going to be probably in the present tense, or we're going to have the subjunctive. So dum in his locis, caesar navium parandarum causa moratur. So while in these environs, in these places, in these lands, Caesar, Yavoi Caesare, he navium parandarum causa moratur. Moratur is present, its deponent from moror morari, means to delay, to tarry, to fritter away some time, and it's present tense. So we have dum plus the indicative present. That means that the next verb, the main verb, is going to be perfect tense, past tense. We would expect the perfect tense here with the dum, but it's actually present, and we're going to translate it with the English past tense. Causa is going to go with the genitive navium parandarum, and that is a gerundive, not a gerund. If it were a gerund, it would just be parandi. It would not have the noun navium going with it. Navium agrees with parandarum, that makes it a gerundive in adjective. That's why it has a noun that it agrees with. In gender, number, and case. Both are genitive, both are plural, both are feminine, going with causa. So for the sake of readying, prepping, preparing his ships, moratur, he delays. While Caesar delayed in these places for the sake of preparing or prepping his ships, ex magna parte Morinorum ad eum legati venerunt, qui sede superioris temporis consilio excusarent. And then I'll stop there. Ex is going to take the ablative, so ex magna, it's probably going to be ablative, parte, from a great part, Morinorum, of the Morini, that is a tribe. Ad eum, to him, probably Caesar, legati, nominative plural, venerunt, third plural perfect, active indicative, they came. So we've seen this a million times at this point. Legates from a great part of the Morini came to him, while he tarried, delayed in these places for the sake of prepping his ships. Qui, I'm going to guess that's going to kick us into a relative purpose clause. There's a relative pronoun. I'm going to bet the next verb is subjunctive, and it should be imperfect subjunctive because venerunt is perfect tense. So we are in secondary sequence. And qui, the relative purpose clause, is going to tell us the purpose of these legati. Why did they come to Caesar? Qui se refers back to the subject, de superioris temporis consilio, and de goes with the ablative consilio, and it forms a nice little frame, or it nestles the genitive superioris temporis. Concerning the plan, plot, stratagem of the superioris temporis, the previous time, we could say season, we could even say campaign, the previous campaign. So Caesar's referring to the last year. He dealt with the Morini in the last year, and he's unhappy with the way that they fought him. Excusarent, they made excuse. They tried to make an excuse for themselves, and that's the object of se is the object of excusarent. So the legates came to Caesar from a great part of the Morini to say, who were to, or to excuse, or they were to excuse themselves, or you could say their behavior, concerning their plot of the previous year, their stratagem of the previous year. Quod homines barbari et nostrae consuetudinis imperiti bellum populo Romano fecissent. Quod, and the quod here, I guess you could translate as because and say it's causal, but it is followed by the subjunctive. So it's probably best to think of this quote as saying, as being the explanatory, what was the consilio that they want to excuse themselves for, their behavior for? What was the stratagem of the previous year? Caesar's going to tell us, remind us. Quod, that these homines barbari, these barbaric people, these savage people, et nostrae consuetudinis imperiti. Now, imperiti is an adjective, it's nominative, plural, masculine, and it agrees with homines barbari. It stands in apposition to them. It's sort of an explanatory as to why they fecissent bellum, they made war upon the populo Romano. That these barbaric people had made war upon the Roman people on account of them being inexperienced, imperiti, unaware, inexperienced, unknowing, and that takes the genitive, nostrae consuetudinis, of our ways, of what we are accustomed to do. So these people, they're unaccustomed to, these people unaware of our customs, unaware of what we like to do, what we are wont to do, they had made war upon the Roman people. And they palicarentur, this verb is in contrast with excusarent. So their purpose when coming to Caesar is to excuse their behavior for the previous season, and then to promise, palicarentur, that they, facturos, palicarentur kicks us into an indirect statement, the accusative subject of which is se, and then we have the future infinitive facturos, and the esse is implied, that they would do, ea, the accusative plural direct object neuter, things, and that is answered by quae. Which things? Well, the things which, imperasset, that's a syncopated form of imperavisset, the subject is Yavoi Cesare, which he had ordered, which he had commanded them to do. So all in all, legates from a great part of the Morini come to him, who are to excuse their behavior concerning the stratagem of the previous season, which these barbaric people, unknowing of our customs, had made war upon the Roman people, and they were to promise that they would do or accomplish the things which he had commanded them. Hoc, and hoc is going to refer back to something that we just talked about. So it's probably this whole situation. Sibi, the dative, and then Caesar, so there's the nominative. The Romans, if they could get away with it, they like to put words talking about the same person or the same thing, or even the same word, right next to each other, but put them in different cases. So Sibi and Caesar, they're referring to the same person. It's just Sibi is dative and Caesar is nominative. So the Romans like to do stuff like that. Hoc sibi Caesar satis opportune accidisse arbitratus. So it's a participial phrase with arbitratus being the perfect, its deponent, so it's passive, translate actively participle. Arbitror, he deemed, thought good, or he judged. So Caesar, having thought that, kicks us into an indirect statement. Hoc, this thing, what had just happened. Accidisse, what had happened satis opportune sibi, had happened fortunately enough for him, conveniently enough for him, satisfactorily, nicely for him. He's remarking at his good luck. Perhaps he's even thinking that a little too lucky, like this is a little too convenient. Quod neque postergum hostem relinquere volebat. Neque, we're picking up with another neque, so we have neque. Quod plus the indicative volebat, so because, causal clause, because neque neither volebat, he was wishing or he wished, to relinquere, complementary infinitive, to leave an hostem. Notice it's singular, not plural, not leave the enemy, but this is the singular, an enemy or any enemy. Like he was not about to leave any enemy posteridum at his back, behind him. He's not going to let any enemy get around to his back. Not going to leave himself without an exit. Neque picks up with the other correlative conjunction neque, so neither nor. Neque belli garendi propter anni tempus facultatem habebat. Neque, and even another neque, nor habebat, was he having an opportunity of waging war on account of the time of the year. He's talking about, remember, exigua parte aestatis. So it was only a meager, scant, small part of the summer left behind. So he might not have a full season to wage this campaign. And that also shows his impatience. He really, really wants to get going. Neque has tantularum rerum occupationes Britanniae anteponendas judicabat. And he keeps going, and you can kind of see in tantularum is a fun word. It's tantus aum, but it's got the diminutive ul, so you get ullus aum, tantulus. And it's fun because tantus is a word that in itself means so big or so great. Its correspondent is quantus, how big or how great. But Caesar's added a diminutive, a lessening, or a little maker. So the ulus means like, oh, little, oh, it's so cute, small, or it can even mean trifling, or just, like some fly buzzing, like, get away, go, bzz, bzz, away. So it's a word that in itself means so big or so great, but he's made it mean something so small, so trifling. And I think this also shows his impatience. The things that are going on around him are keeping him from going to Britain. And he's not happy about that. Neque nor has tantularum rerum occupationes. Has goes with occupationes in its accusative. These occupations, the things that were seizing or taking up his time, that these time wasters, tantularum rerum, of such trifling matters, of such small trifling matters. And tantularum, once again, emphasizes just how trifling and diminutive he thinks these things are. Oh my gosh, guys, this is so small and stupid. Just let me Britanniae anteponendas judicabat. Let me just go to Britain. So nor was he judging that these things that were taking up his time, occupationes, of such trifling matters, anteponendas, must be put in front, put in front of Britain, put before Britain, Britanniae. Antepono takes the dative, and that explains Britanniae. Magnum is numerum obsidum imperat. And here we have just a simple main clause right here. And because of Caesar having thought that this thing had occurred satisfactorily enough for him, what does he do? He magnum is, you're used to eis numerum obsidum imperat. This is the main clause, this is the main thought. He orders a great number of hostages to him. Notice that we do not actually have an ut or indirect command here. It's just he imperat an accusative. And remember, impero can do that. You just impero an accusative to a dative. So that explains the magnum numerum, and then it's a great number, genitive, obsidum, of genitive, is to them. Oh no, he orders imperat is the dative. He orders them a great number of hostages. And then the quod, the causal clause with the neques, that explains, that's the cause, that's why. He didn't want to leave any enemy at his back. nor did he was he considering that he had an opportunity of waging war because of the season of the year, nor was he judging that the time wasters of such trifling matters ought to be put before Britain. So he says, "Give me your kids." He orders a great number of hostages. He orders them to render a great number of hostages. Quibus adductis eos infidem recipit. And wow, short little sentence. They quickly reply. Quibus adductus, with which things, and the quibus, the antecedent, is the obsidum, the hostages. So with these hostages adductis, having been led to him, it's an ablative absolute, having been brought forth, eos infidem recipit, he receives them into his faith, into oath. So he takes their hostages, he takes their kids, and then he receives them under his protection. Navibus cerciter, and that's octigenta honoraris coactis contractis quae. Nice ablative absolute. Navibus, with around 80 honoraris, those are transport ships. The root is onus oneris neuter, which means load or heavy burden. So these are loaded ships, burden ships, transport ships. And with around 80 of these transport ships, coactis, contractis quae, they're gathered together, and don't say gathered together, drawn together, brought together. They're synonyms, and they're joined by quae, so they're closely aligned. Gathered and drawn together. Excuse me. Quod satis esse ad duas transportandas legiones existimabat. Quote, as many enough as existimabat, he was thinking to be esse ad duas transportandas legiones, and that's an ad plus an accusative gerundive showing purpose. If it were just a gerund, it would be ad transportandum. It is not. We have noun legiones agreeing with the adjectival gerundive transportandas, accusative plural feminine. So it's in order to transport, to carry over 2 legions. So he figured that 80 transport ships was enough to carry over 2 legions. Quod praeterea navium langarum habebat quaestori, legatis, praefectisque distribuit. Quod praeterea navium langarum habebat. I have a note about this. You should translate this as what of leftover warships he had. This is one of those weird partitive genitives where it's quod, quod being the object of distribuit, and it has the partitive genitive navium, navium langarum. So what praeterea means leftover, what except, what leftover of warships. So whatever was left over of warships, habebat, he had, he distribuit, he distributed, he gave out to his quaestor, his legatis, his lieutenants, and his praefectis, and his prefects. There probably should be a comma, which would equate to an Oxford comma after legatis, and shame on the editor for not doing so. We have quaestor, legati, quaestor, lieutenants, and prefects. Huc accedebat, and that is duodewigenti honorariae naves, quae ex eo loco a milibus passum octovento tenebantur, quo minus in eundem portum venir reposent. So huc hither to this place accedebat, were approaching duodewigenti, that's 18 honorariae naves, that's an additional 18 transport ships on top of the 80, were approaching hither to this place, quae, which, ex eo loco a milibus passum, which from this place, meaning the place Caesar was at, from about 8 miles, that's 8 miles, by the wind tenebantur. These transport ships were being held back from Caesar's location, from his position, 8 miles by the wind. Quominus, some editors write quominus as a single word. This one has not. It might be better to do so. It's equivalent to quin, which you saw in Book 1, Chapter 47, that the Germani retineri non potuerant quin tella in nostros coecere. That the Germans had not been able to be kept back, quin, from, whereby from they do not coecerent, cast or throw weapons upon our men. So when you see quin or quominus, you have to remind yourself that there is a non or a ne in there, and it should be followed by the subjunctive. So you have quominus en eundem portum venire possent. So these ships were being held back from Caesar's location, from that position, 8 miles by the wind, whereby the less, or you can say, whereby they were not able to come to that same port. Remember, eundem is idem, eadem, idem. It's is ea id plus dem dem. The dem dem does not decline, but the is ea id does. So it's eum dem, but if you have an m in front of the d, that m becomes an n due to euphony. So eundem instead of eumdem. So an additional 18 transport ships show up. They're kept back from the wind from Caesar's location, about 8 miles, so that they're not able to join him at the same port. Has, and I would imagine that the antecedent of has is the naves, so these ships, in the accusative, equitibus, to the cavalry, to the knights, tribuit, so he distributes these ships to his knights. So he puts the horses on the 18 transport ships, and he puts 2 legions on the 80. Relicum exercitum quinto Titurio Sabino et Lucio Aurunculeio Cottae legatis in Menapios atque in eos pagos Morinorum aquibus ad eum legati non venerunt ducendum dedit. So the Relicum exercitum is the accusative, the remaining army. Quintus Titurius Sabinus in the dative, and Lucius Aurunculeius Cottae in the dative. Legatis, also in the dative, standing in apposition to the 2 of them. Notice it's plural, so it goes with both of them. In Menapios, amongst the Menapi, atque, the emphatic et, and also in eos pagos Morinorum, amongst those districts or cantons. You remember what a pagos is, remember the Tigrines. Morinorum, amongst those districts of the Morini, aquibus, by whom or from whom, ad eum, to him, to Caesar, legati, lieutenants non venerunt, from whom legates had not come to him. So when Caesar summoned all the districts of the pagus of the Morini to send legates to him to say, "What's up? You're awesome. Hi, Caesar." These did not. So he tells the remaining army, the ones that are not going to Britain, under the lieutenants Quintus Titurius Sabinus and Lucius Aurunculeius Cottae, to go amongst the Menapi and to go amongst the Morini who did not send legates to me. And then ducendum dedit, and he gave the rest of the army to them, to be led in Menapios, ducendum. That's a passive paraphrastic, an army to be led. And I would just translate it like that. An army must be led amongst the Menapi. That almost is a future passive participle, like a pure future passive participle. It shows obligation, of course. It's what Caesar told them that they must do. The army must be led amongst the Menapi and those districts of the Morini. And Publium Sulpicium Rufum legatum, all in the accusative with legatum, his rank. He's also a lieutenant, modifying him in apposition. Cum eo praesidio, with that garrison, and of course the eo almost screams out for you to say, what garrison? And then you pick it up with quod, the relative, satis esse arbitrabator, with that garrison which he, probably Caesar, was deeming satis esse to be satisfactory, to be sufficient enough. Portum tenere iusit. He ordered him, that is where Sulpicius Rufus comes in, to hold the port. So altogether, Caesar ordered, he bid Publius Sulpicius Rufus, a lieutenant, to hold the port with that garrison which he was deeming, which he thought sufficient enough.